What is going on, everybody? What is happening? Welcome back to another episode of 6 for 1, the show where we give you 6 shows for the price of one show. My name is Paul, Paul, and I will be your tour guide on this show of 6 shows. I just want to start by, as I've kind of started this project and started moving on it and whatever, I've learned a hell of a lot about what this is going to take and kind of what the best system is for myself as far as getting content out there and just kind of doing the show on a regular basis. So, and my life is about to get very, very busy, I think, in the next couple months. So I am not going to put days on the show. It's part of why in the last few episodes I have kind of taken the day-centered segments out of the show, and we've just put the same segments in, the same shows in with different titles. It is because I do not want to be tied to any certain day that I have to do the show. I just want to be able to do the show twice a week, and that's it. And wherever I can fit that in, I'll fit that in. So we're aiming for 2 episodes a week, clips for every episode. That is what we're aiming for on 6 for 1 here each and every week. So I can't sit here and promise you that I will that will be the standard every week. Some weeks there may just be 2 episodes. Some weeks there may just be 1 episode and clips. But I'm going to aim for twice a week and just try to get as much content out there to you guys watching this as possible. So with that being said, let's get going with our first show. And for our first show on the show of 6 shows, we are doing a little rebrand here. This segment is what was formerly known as Smart Mark University. We are renaming it to just be WroPrestling, the show. This is WroPrestling, the show. WroPrestling is an idea I had probably about a year and a half ago, September of 2020. I came up with the name, and I was like, this would be a really cool pro wrestling brand. And then I always wanted to do it as a clothing brand, and I did that. I did that this past year, and I learned a lot in that process, and it's been something that has been interesting. I'm wearing one of the WroPrestling shirts right now. Boom. So if you like what you're seeing with what I'm wearing, this one, it says One Big Mark, and my idea was I wanted to make wrestling shirts and things that celebrated the culture of professional wrestling without being in your face and without being so pro wrestling. Not that there's anything wrong with gimmick shirts and being pro wrestling and all that stuff, but I just wanted to do something that was a little bit different and something that hadn't been done before. So that's what we're doing. This one says One Big Mark. The idea is everybody who's a wrestling fan is just one big mark. And so that's what this shirt is. If you like this shirt, you can go pick it up at WroPrestling.com. Cheap little plug there. So on this episode of WroPrestling, the show, no longer Smart Mark University, because I am not an expert in damn near anything, but especially not in the professional wrestling industry. So we're just going to call this WroPrestling. So on this episode of WroPrestling, we want to talk about the man himself, the game, Triple H. Let's go, Hard H. So Triple H went on ESPN last week and retired from in-ring competition officially. I don't think that was anything that was surprising to anyone who follows the business, because he had a health scare in September of last year, September 2021. He had some heart issues that he was dealing with, and he's kind of been out of the public eye, and it had been speculated that his in-ring career was over. But now it is 100% set in stone. His in-ring career is done skis. So this is a big deal, man. Triple H is one of the biggest stars in the world of professional wrestling. I mean, he is the man, and he is, and also by all accounts, Triple H is is a great guy. I mean, I don't know that there's anybody who they may not like the decisions he's made or how he conducts business or whatever, but there's probably very few people that have negative things to say about Triple H, the guy, and Paul Levesque, the guy. I mean, he is just he seems to be one of those guys that is universally liked, and when you are at the top of a corporate hierarchy in WWE, the biggest player in the game, no pun intended. That's not always something that's easy to do, but he seems like a really salty individual. He seems like a really good dude, and the impact that Triple H has had on my life in particular cannot be understated. Triple H, when I first started getting into the gym and into fitness, I've talked about this a lot on this show, but this book right here, Making the Game, Triple H, was the first. The programming that's in this book is the first programming I did to get in the gym. And I bought the book after seeing his documentary on WWE Network. It wasn't on WWE Network at the time. I think I saw it on Netflix because they used to have that thing where some of the WWE stuff would be on Netflix back in the day. But the network obviously said goodbye to that. But anyways, so I saw that DVD and I was like, man, this dude is he's a really inspiring dude. And so move my chair over a little bit so you guys can see the logo back there. I'm not trying to block the advertising. So I saw the Triple H Thy Kingdom Come documentary on Netflix, and it's on the network now. It's on Peacock if you guys want to go check that out. If you've not seen it, I would recommend seeing it. It is really, really good. It is, it tells the story of Triple H's career, starting on, the Indies in the Northeast, and then going to WCW, and then making his way to the WWE where he's been ever since. So, Triple H, he, love him or hate him, like I became a fan of wrestling in 2005, and that was kind of right in the middle of the reign of terror, if you will, which was, that 2002, 2003 through probably 2005. That was sort of right in that time frame when that was kind of coming to an end, that 2-year run where he was the man on Monday Night Raw every week, and he'd get in the ring and cut 20-minute promos and do what Triple H does, and it was sort of the evolution thing and all that, and I kind of caught the tail end of that, and it's been in recent years I've gone back and watched some of that actual stuff. I for a while when I was younger, I had a big fascination with 2003. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. But when I first got into wrestling, I think it was because it was 2 years prior, and it was 2004 wasn't really the best year, but 2003 there were some bangers in 2003. But I had a big fascination with 2003, so I went back and watched some of the Triple H stuff, and a lot of it was really good stuff. But I was a fan of Triple H, even in 2005, where he was a heel and he was kind of the bad guy, but he had the long hair, which I liked at that time, and obviously still do. No, he had the long hair. He wore the suits. He wore the sunglasses. He was very swagalicious back in those days, and so I was just a fan. I bought a T-shirt that I ended up getting taken away from me by my parents because it had skulls and stuff on it, and so I had his T-shirt, and I was a big Triple H mark back in the day, and still am. From the fitness thing, and just from watching interviews with him, and just from hearing the way he thinks, and the man doesn't drink. The man is a pretty rock solid individual, and kind of does his thing, and is very focused, and is very level headed, and all of that. And I've taken a lot of inspiration from that in my own life, and tried to really model myself. I think that Triple H and Vince McMahon are both two of my role models in terms of business, in terms of just moving through life. And the fact that Triple H's in-ring career is over is a bummer. And love or hate Triple H, love or hate his character, you cannot deny how great he actually was. I mean, he could put on a match, a solid match with anybody. He told really good stories. He was very selfless in the fact that he did put a lot of guys over. He did he shined a lot himself too, but he did put a lot of guys over. He put Daniel Bryan over at WrestleMania 30 and kind of helped him have his moment. He put Roman Reigns over. He's just put a lot of people over, in his time. And I don't think that can be really, Dave Bautista. You put Dave Bautista over at WrestleMania 21, which was, sort of the height of my fandom or right when I got into wrestling. I remember Dish Network had one of those deals back in the day where not the pay-per-view itself, like obviously the pay-per-view itself was like $45 or whatever, but like after the pay-per-view, maybe 2 weeks later, they would have the event on like a 24-hour cycle just on repeat for 24 hours for like $3.99 or something like that. And I remember getting WrestleMania 21 on pay-per-view for $3.99 and watching the whole damn thing multiple times in a row. Just because it's a damn good show. It's probably one of the most underrated WrestleManias of all time, but it was just Triple H was a big part of that. And the fact that he came out to Motorhead and then put over Dave Bautista in the main event for Dave Bautista to kind of become the guy at that time. And Triple H, he's done a lot of good for the business. And then you get into everything he's done with NXT, not NXT 2.0, that's obviously kind of its own thing, but the original NXT, the black and gold, what he did for guys like Adam Cole, guys like Johnny Gargano, guys like Finn Balor, and just the way that he used kind of these smaller guys and made them into believable stars. And I remember going to an NXT Black and Gold event in November of 2019 in Chicago at the Rosemont, and shout out to Dave Otto. So I remember going to one of those events, and it was electric. It was War Games, and it was badass. Like the whole thing was just like the electricity in that building that night was insane. And I think that Triple H kind of crafted that. I think it was his baby. I think he did a lot of good for a lot of guys when he was in charge of NXT. So I want to say personally, thank you, Hunter. Thank you, Paul, for all of the memories and all of the nostalgia and all of the inspiration that you've given me personally. I really appreciate it. You're the man. Congrats on an awesome career, and look forward to seeing what you do in the business world from now on. So also, I want to talk about this new series on Peacock on the WWE Network. It is called WWE Evil, and it is executive produced by John Cena, and it talks about the villains in professional wrestling. And I've watched the Hollywood Hogan episode, and I've watched the Roman Reigns episode. Both are fantastic. I cannot wait to watch the rest of the episodes, but both of those episodes are fantastic. They go into the psychology of, the Hogan one was very interesting because they told the whole story of him being kind of this larger than life good guy, and then he goes to WCW, and that's starting to kind of fizzle, and he evolves and he becomes sort of this asshole heel bad guy, and he was just, and obviously he did incredible big huge business with the NWO. And it was just perfect for the time of the 90s, which was like grunge and all that. But it told that story. And that was pretty, it was masterfully done. They did have some cuts in there, like they'd cut to, the booze or whatever. And you could tell that those were a little iffy. Like they'd cut to like a unrelated clips and just try to make it look way worse than it was. But that's what they do. That's what professional wrestling does. They embellish. And so, but other than that, that even with that, it's a damn good show. It's a damn good series. And the Roman Reigns episode, that was damn good as well, because that is more recent. Obviously Roman Reigns is doing amazing things right now. He's the biggest star that they have. And he is, and it told the whole story of him kind of being pushed down everybody's throat. And then, he has the leukemia thing and goes away for a while and then comes back and is still kind of doing the same thing. And then COVID hits, and then he goes away for a little bit more. And then when he comes back, he's like, I'm going to do this shit my way now. and we see the results. I mean, the Roman Reigns way is badass. And his character now and with the Usos and with Paul Heyman and just with everything he's doing now is super cool. And like, I'm excited for WrestleMania in a week. I'm excited for it. It's going to be badass to see him and Lesnar in the ring together. And I'm just pumped to be, it's a fucking exciting time to be a wrestling fan right now. Cause between AEW and between WWE, like everybody's doing good shit right now. It's so fucking cool to be a wrestling fan at this moment, and Roman Reigns is a big part of that. And and then on the other channel you have MJF. Two fantastic heels that are making wrestling very, very interesting right now, and I think that is something that needs to be talked about more. Speaking of MJF, he went on the Ariel Helwani show. Big Ariel Helwani fan here. He went on the Ariel Helwani show and he did an interview with Ariel. And MJF is one of those guys, like, I can never tell whether he is in character, out of character, whether he's Max, whether he's MJF. I can never tell whether it's kayfabe, whether it's not kayfabe, whether he's just an asshole. And by the way, that's exactly what makes him a good heel. The fact that nobody can tell. If it's real, if it's fake, is it, what is it? The fact that nobody can tell is what really makes it intriguing and is what really makes MJF interesting. And he is by far the biggest star that AEW has. And, I think during that MJF interview, which was very, very interesting, by the way, but during that interview, I think he called his mom a whore or something like that, like just something crazy. But no, I mean, he is just one of those guys that is just off the cuff, wild. You never know what the fuck he's going to say. You never know what's coming out of his mouth. And that is what makes him a fantastic heel. He will say the things that make you just go, oh, this motherfucker. And, he'll say the things that make your skin crawl and just make you hate the guy. And that's exactly what makes him really, really good. It's like I can't help but smile when I think about it, because it's like, damn, that is excellence personified in professional wrestling, and MJF is at the top of the game right there with Roman. I mean, Roman's a little bit different though, because like it's hard to put those two in the same category, because MJF really makes you hate him. MJF really makes you go, oh, this motherfucker. But with Roman Reigns, he's a heel, but he's a heel in a different way, where he's the heel that makes you go, oh, damn, this guy's kind of badass. Like he is really a monster, and he is a badass and an unstoppable champion, all the things. And so they're different in that way, but they're both at the top of their game, and they're both running. I would say MJF is probably the maybe not the biggest star in AEW, because they have people like John Moxley, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson. Like, they've got a lot of guys who have a lot of name recognition from WWE, but I would say MJF is definitely the biggest homegrown star that AEW has. And the fact that he's on that channel and Roman's on the other channel, and it is a fucking cool time to be a fan of professional wrestling. It really, really is. And I am so excited to see where everything's going to go. And I'm excited to see if MJF, he's talking a lot about free agency. And I think I'm excited to see if he ends up in the WWE in 2 years. I think that'll be very interesting if he does. But yeah, so crazy time to be a wrestling fan. Great time to be a wrestling fan. And with all that being said, we are moving on to our next segment, which is Fighting Words. And ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to announce that at UFC 279, we are going to have a blockbuster fight. It is going to be Will Smith versus Chris Rock for the Hollywood title. The Oscars were tonight. Will Smith walked up on stage, smacked the piss out of Chris Rock because Chris Rock made a comment about his wife, and Will Smith sits back down. Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth. I love that. I just watched that video before I started doing this episode, and I just love that it is Hollywood, it is the Oscars, it is pomp and circumstance, But at the same time, some shit can pop off, and it's always fun. Like when I watched the video, I watched the uncensored version, and it was just so funny to see like Chris Rock, one of the biggest comedians of all time, Will Smith, one of the biggest actors of all time, and they got into it and like shit just kind of hit the fan at the Oscars. I'm sure the Academy was very happy about that. But no, and no charges being filed, it sounds like. So, but it keeps everybody on their toes when shit can just go sideways at any moment. It keeps everybody on their toes, and Chris Rock and Will Smith showed that tonight at the Oscars. So I'm excited to see how they do in the octagon when they inevitably do fight at UFC 279, 280, whatever it's going to be. I think that they both have an equal shot to win. I think Chris Rock maybe needs a little bit more training than Will Smith, because Will Smith did do Ali, so he has had some boxing training in his time. But I'm excited to see how that fight plays out. From the stage to the cage, baby, let's go. But no. But speaking of street fights, speaking of shit popping off, Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal got into it in Miami. It is hard to say what actually happened here because all the video footage looks a little grainy, looks a little like you can't tell what's going on, or it's right after the alleged incident. And so it's really hard to say what's actually happening there. But, Jorge Masvidal got charged. So, I'm sure we'll find more out about that. But shit is popping off right now. People are just going all sorts of crazy. I don't know what it is right now, but people are just going all sorts of nuts. And it is a wild time. So, but in real UFC news, not in the street fight realm, but in the actual business of the UFC, Nathan Diaz, my man, Nathan Diaz has asked for his UFC release. And he's asked for his UFC release in the most Nate Diaz way humanly possible, right? Like he asked for his UFC release. Hey, listen, if you guys are going to give me a fight, just release me. I got shit to do. That is classic Nate Diaz. Love to see that out of Nate Diaz. He is just a wild man. Speaking of, Chris Rock's a wild man for what he says. Will Smith's a wild man because he goes up on the stage and hits people. Colby Covington's a wild man because of what he says. Masvidal, wild man because he'll go up and hit people. Nathan Diaz, legitimate wild man in both categories. He'll say crazy shit, and then he'll get in the cage and fight you too. So I love that in Nate Diaz. Let's see what happens. My guess is he'll get a fight. I saw a Twitter poll recently that was from Shamat Karsandu, and it was asking what people would like to see as Nate Diaz's next fight. And a lot of people were saying that he, obviously the leading option was Conor, and then Dustin, I think, was number 2. And then I think the Jorge Masvidal fight didn't get very many votes at all, the Masvidal rematch. I'm not really interested in seeing the Masvidal rematch either. I would like to see him fight Dustin. I think the Conor fight draws a lot of money. So, I think that if they're going to do the McGregor fight, and if McGregor's going to come back at 170 or whatever, they're teeing it up for a Conor McGregor Nate Diaz fight for a trilogy. So I'm excited to see what happens there. I think that if Conor doesn't come back and fight Usman for the 170-pound belt, I think Nate Diaz is probably a pretty good option for him. It's guaranteed, it's in the bag that he's gonna make a lot of money for that fight, which I think is what Conor McGregor at this point is trying to do. He's trying to make as much money as possible, and good for him. But also, like, Nate Diaz will work with him a little bit. Like Dustin Poirier didn't really work with him that much as far as like selling the fight or whatever. He was just kind of like whatever. But like Nate Diaz will get into it with him. There'll be some cool press conference moments. I think that would be a fun fight to see. I that's my vote. I'm voting to see Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz 3. I think that would be a tremendous fight, and I'm excited to see what happens there. So we are moving along now to Sports Uninformed, and A lot of stuff happening right now. A lot of people moving in the NFL. A lot of people moving in baseball. Matt Ryan is at the Colts now. Matt Ryan, who the fuck is that? No, Matt Ryan, quarterback for the Falcons, going to the Colts. Seems pretty cool. I don't know much about Matt Ryan. I don't know much about football, but seems like a good move. So good on the Colts. Albert Pujols going back to the Cardinals on a 1-year deal. This is seeming like a victory lap, or not a victory lap, but a retirement lap for Albert Pujols. Go Cardinals. So I'm excited to see that. It'll just be good to see Pujols back in St. Louis, back in a Cardinals uniform for probably his last season. It's fitting, right? Like, he was there for so long, had a lot of cool moments with the Cardinals, and I remember back in my younger years, back in the day, back in my younger years, I was a big baseball card trader. Me and the kid that lived across the street from me, we would always get together and trade baseball cards and look at our binders and look at who's got who. And I remember Albert Pujols was always the guy I wanted in my Cardinals tab of my binder. I always wanted Albert Pujols, and as many and as cool Albert Pujols cards as I could get my hands on, I was all about it. So Albert Pujols, cool to see him going back to the Cardinals for probably his last year in the MLB. I've always been fascinated with commentators and with the business of broadcasting and the business of sports commentary and things like that. And so a lot of movement happening right now on the football front for commentators. Joe Buck and Aikman are going to ESPN. It just came out. Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit are going to Amazon for Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. That's interesting, right? Like, Al Michaels, legend. Kirk Herbstreit, he's been a college guy for a long time, as far as I can tell, and now he's going to get his shot to work in the pros and broadcast pro games. So I think that'll be cool. I have seen a couple interviews with Kirk Herbstreit on Pat McAfee's show, and I think that he is just a cool dude. I like him. I like Kirk Herbstreit. I think he's cool. And Al Michaels too. I've seen him on McAfee, and they do. He's a cool dude, and he's a GOAT of the game. Like, I think he's been on Madden. I remember hearing his voice on Madden back in the day, and Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, that'll be a cool pairing on Amazon Prime for Thursday Night Football. So, like I said, I don't know shit about sports, but I think that'll be a cool pairing. Alrighty, now we are moving along to one of my favorite segments, Fitness Freaks. Fitness Freaks, the freaks of fitness. And today I want to talk about cardio versus lifting weights, cardio versus strength training for losing weight. So let's say somebody goes in the gym, they want to lose weight. There's a fly in here. Somebody goes in the gym, they want to lose weight, and they want to get in better shape. I think the first move that a lot of people make when they want to do that is they want to go in and they want to go, okay, I want to lose weight. I'm going to go run 3 miles, or I'm going to go get on the elliptical for an hour. I'm going to go do the Stairmaster. I'm going to go ride the bike, or, now the Pelotons are big. I want to go do the Peloton. And cardio definitely has its place, right? Like, cardio definitely has a place in a routine, but I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's kind of like trying to, I'm trying to think of a good analogy here. Like, doing cardio to lose weight is kind of just a hamster wheel, right? Because you're just gonna go and go and go and go. But if your nutrition is not absolutely perfect and you're not dialed in on what you're eating and you're not doing this and you're not doing that, like, it really doesn't matter that much. Like, cardio is a very, and here's why. Here's why it doesn't matter that much. Because when you do cardio, calorie burn begins and ends when the workout begins and ends. So the calorie burn starts as soon as you get on the treadmill and start the treadmill. Calorie burn begins. Calorie burn ends right when you get done. So right when you get done with your 3 miles or whatever, you burn as many calories as you're going to burn in that workout, but then it's over. Like, it's not real taxing on your nervous system. It's not real taxing on, it's just it's taxing on your heart. But like, I mean, once your heart rate comes back down, the calorie expenditure is kind of over. And with weightlifting and lifting weights and strength training and kind of whatever, super parched. With weightlifting, you get a lot more bang for your buck in terms of weight loss, because when you add muscle to your body, you're naturally going to lose a little bit of fat anyways, right? Because muscle is very expensive on your body to keep on. So it's, cardio is kind of trying to shave fat off the top, right? But lifting weights, you're going to burn the fat from the inside out, because you're going to ramp up your metabolism by adding muscle, because your body's going to need to burn off. Your body's going to have more and more calorie expenditure on a regular basis by trying to keep all this muscle than it would by just you getting on the treadmill and doing 30 minutes or whatever like that. So weightlifting is like, and strength training, I'm not saying like you have to just lift maximum weight all the time. Like, that's not the ideal, I don't think. Like, strength training and gaining strength in your body and putting muscle on your body and working on your strength in, working on your muscles and not working on, your cardio. Working on, strength training is going to build you a good base, sort of whether you have fat on you or not. Like if you don't have fat on you, you're going to see it a lot quicker. But if you have fat on you, you can still implement strength training to lose weight, because as you implement strength training and as you gain muscle, your body's naturally going to kind of shed some of that fat off anyways. So you don't need to just kill yourself on cardio. I've actually realized that for myself, cardio is kind of antithetical to what I'm trying to accomplish. Like, I don't do very much cardio. I mean, I will if I want to do a triathlon, or if I want to do a run or something like that. Like, I'll ramp it up. But for me, I always go with strength training as kind of my main focus of training. Like, I try to lift weights and get stronger and get bigger and things like that, and work the muscles out, because I know that by doing that, I'm going to, I'm naturally going to lose fat. If I gain 5 pounds of muscle, I'm going to get slimmer fat wise. I mean, it's just going to happen. Like, your metabolism, it's kind of like muscle is like a furnace. Like, you're putting fire in that furnace. And this is like one of the most cliche fucking examples of all time, and the most cliche, example or metaphors of all time. I just about said examples twice. I'm an idiot. No, it's one of the most cliche metaphors for it, because it's what every fucking bonehead says, and it's what every, Men's Health magazine will tell you and whatever. But it is true. Like, the reason, one of my favorite quotes is the keys to life are hidden behind the word cliche. And this is no different. So adding muscle to your body will reduce the amount of fat that you have on your body, just because it's so expensive for your body to keep. So you can do a ton of cardio and you can be like, oh, I ran 3 miles, did this, did that. But like, I remember when I was doing that, like I've gotten into cycles before where I'm like, okay, I need to lose weight. I'm just going to ramp up my cardio, and I'm going to do a shit ton of cardio or whatever. And, as I'm doing more and more and more cardio, my body's not changing all that much. But when I focus on strength training, and eating correctly, whether that's to gain weight or lose weight, so whether I'm in a calorie surplus or calorie deficit, that's where I see a lot of changes happening in my body. Like, I'll notice that oh, I have an outline of abs that I didn't have before, or my legs look a lot, more shredded and things like that. So um, cardio is not a waste of time for sure, because you want your heart to be healthy and you want that. But um, I would say if you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to be healthier and whatever, strength training needs to be a big part of it. Like strength training needs to be a big part of it. And if strength training is a big part of that, you're going to get where you want to go quicker. So like you can do cardio and you can lose weight by just doing cardio. Yes, it's going to take a long time. You're going to have to just restrict calories, and you're going to have to up the amount of cardio you're doing all the time, because your body gets used to it really, really quickly. But with strength training, you can kind of keep doing your same routine. If you just stick with it and stick with it and stick with it, you're going to see results a lot quicker than if you just did cardio. And the more muscle that you have in your body, if you add just a little bit of muscle, you're going to look slimmer, because if your muscles are a little bit bigger and more defined, you're going to look slimmer. And even if you're not, it's going to look like that. And, and that's a big thing for people, I think. So I would say strength training just needs to be a big part of what you're doing, no matter what it is that you're doing, whether you're trying to lose weight, whether you're trying to gain strength, or obviously you're gaining strength, you're going to do strength training, right? But no matter what it is that you're doing, I think strength training does need to be a big part of that, especially if you're trying to lose weight. It's a tough deal to just keep adding cardio, and the 3 mile run then becomes a 4 mile run, then becomes a 5 mile run, then becomes a 6 mile run. Now you're looking at an hour, where before you were doing 30 minutes. With strength training, you can keep your workout pretty much the same length, like an hour or whatever, but you can really up the amount of volume, and you can up the amount of weight that you're doing in that hour. So everybody has different ways that they do it. Everybody does things a little bit different ways, but I would say, as a general rule of thumb, for most people, strength training is going to be superior to cardio for losing weight, because it's going to force your body to burn more calories when you're not doing anything. When you're just resting, it's going to force your body to naturally kick up your metabolism. It's going to force your body to shed some of that fat in order to keep the muscle that's on your body. It's just going to be a superior way to get where you want to go quicker. And that's what I would say. I noticed this a lot, probably a year ago, maybe a little bit more. Like a year ago, I was really hitting the weights hard. I was really doing all the things that need to be done for strength training. I was eating like a fucking brick shit house. I was going to the gym a lot. I was pushing weight. I was doing all that, and I was also sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. And so I was able to do that because I didn't have a lot of requirements for my body in the regular work week. Now my weight training is a little bit less. My cardio is probably a little bit increased. Just my overall activity is a little bit increased, though. Not necessarily like intentional cardio. It's just overall activity is higher, and so it's just a different thing now. But like a year ago or a little bit more than that, like I was really hitting the weight training hard, and I was really dialed into everything. And that's where I noticed a lot of the changes in my body happening, is when I was just focused on strength training, and I was also doing yoga, and I was also doing a lot of stuff. I noticed a lot of changes in my body during that time. So strength training is the way to go for most people if you're trying to lose weight. That's the bottom line. I can keep talking in circles. I can keep trying to give you bullshit metaphors and bullshit, comparisons or whatever, but it's not really worth it. And yeah, bottom line is, if you want to lose weight, your best bet is going to be to do some strength training. So let's move along now to one of my favorite segments here on 6 for 1, and that is Teachings of Titans. And today we are looking at none other than the man himself, Mr. Vincent Kennedy McMahon. We're looking at Vince McMahon today. I think I've talked about this on the show already, but I'm a big Vince fan. I talked about Triple H earlier. I'm a big Vince fan as well. I think he doesn't get the respect he deserves, and I think that he needs to be listened to. So what better way to get him to be listened to than to put him in a situation where we're going to listen to him. So I've got 2 quotes here from Vince that I want to look at, and we're going to watch the first one right now. And this one is called "Life is for the Living." So here we go.
Life is for the
How fucking intense is that? How intense is that shit? I wrench the neck of life every single day. No, but I think the first part of that where he's talking about he cherishes every moment he's ever had. I think Vince McMahon, I think it's pretty clear he's gone on a record of saying that he did not have a particularly easy upbringing as far as like his family life or whatever. And I definitely relate to that. But, you know, he cherishes every moment he's ever had on earth. At least that's what he says in this. And by the way, this clip is taken from his DVD that came out, McMahon. I think it came out in 2005, 2006. I think 2006. This DVD of McMahon, it was like one of those WWE documentary things that they do. And it was all about Vince. And that was a clip from that. And I loved that, and so I just recorded it on my phone. You know, when I saw it, and so I wanted to talk about that. But yeah, he cherishes every moment of life, and like, you know, life is really, really special. And I think when I look at someone like Vince McMahon and the fact that he has that outlook, and the fact that he has accomplished everything he's accomplished, I think that outlook is necessary to accomplish big things in life. And just being grateful for everything that's happened. Like, everything that's happened has gotten you, this is going to sound cliche too, but like, everything that's happened in life has gotten you to where you're at now. And where you're at now is somewhere that is able to change where you've been. So like, or not where you've been, but where you're heading, right? So like, every moment in your life, good, bad, ugly, or whatever, is something that we need to be grateful for. That I think about this for myself. Like, I need to be grateful for all this bullshit, because all the bullshit has forged me into the individual I am today, and has forged me into making all the decisions I've made, which have been pretty fruitful. And you know, a clip like that from Vince, and then just him talking about, you know, he wrenches the neck of life. And, you know, he gets as much out of life as he can. And I think that's real from him, because like, there are stories that he works all day on something that he absolutely loves, which is the WWE. And then he'll go to the gym and train at 3 a.m. or whatever. And, you know, I do think he gets as much out of life as he possibly can. And I think that's something we all can kind of learn from. Like, we should be getting as much out of life as we can, but we should also be giving something to life. Like, life, I think that's a Tony Robbins quote, but like, you know, life is for the living, and we need to live. We cannot live, you know, you got to get as much out of life as you can, but you also have to give to life, and you also have to help other people, and you know, and just do all that stuff. And just, I say that to myself all the time. Like, life is for the living. And, you know, if there's something that I'm nervous about or whatever, like, life is for the living. Like, you know, this is part of life. You just have to live it, and you just have to get through it. If it sucks, you got to get through it. And if it's good, you got to enjoy it. And, I've watched that clip, like a lot of times. And, I like it every single time I watch it. I'm just like, man, that is such good advice from the chairman of the board, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. I just love doing that. That's fun. All right. So now we are going to watch yet another clip of Mr. Vince McMahon, and that is from, hold on, let me find it here. It's from Vince. Just recently, he was on the Pat McAfee show, and he's talking about... All right, so this next clip is another Vince McMahon clip. It is from his recent appearance on the Pat McAfee show. I've talked about this before, but I just want to kind of revisit this. This was reposted by Bleacher Report Wrestling, so credit to them. But this is Vince McMahon talking about perceptions of other people.
If people think I'm an asshole, then congratulations, I guess I am.
At what point did you make that decision that you didn't care what people thought about you? Because, by the way, your stamina in this thing is unbelievable.
It took a while. I think when you're first starting out and you're giving it everything you possibly can and doing it for all the right reasons, and people start knocking you, calling you something that you're not, and what have you, it bothers you at first. And you try and correct it. But then you realize this is not going to work. I'm spending a lot of time trying to correct this, poor image of me. And I'm spending time over here and things I could do from a positive standpoint. So you really do have to give it up. And I don't mean just a little bit. You really just can't care, what members of the media or people that don't understand you or people have an opinion of you no matter what. You just can't care.
Just can't care. Again, I love that out of Vince. If people think I'm an asshole, well then, congratulations. I guess I am. That. But no, he's actually hitting on something very real there, which is, if you're in a position where, if you're in a position where you're making decisions that are best for you and best for your, whether it's your job or whether it's, if you own a business or whatever it is, like if you're in a position where you're living your life and making decisions that you feel are best for you, and other people think that you're an asshole, whether it's because you stand up for yourself or whether it's because of this or whether it's because of that, like if people think you're an asshole, you kind of do just have to let that shit go. Like you just have to be like, all right, goodbye, later, and just be like, who cares? I'm sure there's people out there who think I'm an asshole because I make decisions that are best for me, and I am ambitious and I go for things, and there is kind of the thing of like I've gotten a lot better at it. I think when I was younger, I definitely thought a lot about what people or cared a lot about what people thought of me and cared a lot about that. I've gotten a lot better at just being like, you know what, fuck those people. I don't even care. And when I saw that from Vince, I was like, yeah, that's exactly like I think on the day that I heard that, it was exactly what I needed at that time. But yeah, I mean, like you can't really concern yourself with other people's opinions because opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one and nobody's is clean. Or nobody's is worth a damn. And if people have an opinion of who you are, what you're about, or whatever, because of whatever, or because of what they see on social media, or whatever, and it's also different. Like if you are just being an asshole for no reason and you're just kind of treating people like shit, then yeah, I mean, people are gonna think you're an asshole, and those people generally don't care. But if you treat the people around you well, and there's still some people who don't know you and don't take the time to get to know you, and they're going to think you're an asshole, you kind of just have to let them think it and just be like, all right, well, I'm doing me. And if you think I'm an asshole, great. But at the same point in time, I'm going to keep doing me, and you can keep thinking I'm an asshole, but fuck you. But no, you just have to, I mean, you do just have to stop caring altogether about what other people think of you. You have to focus on, I think about this a lot. I just have to feel good about what I'm doing. I have to feel good about, what my life looks like and kind of where, what I'm trying to accomplish. And I have to feel good about how I'm spending my time. And I have to feel good about who I'm around. And I have to feel good about all this stuff. And if I make a decision and it's not a popular one, which in business, there's a lot of decisions that are not popular in whatever business you're in. Then, people are always just going to think you're an asshole if you make decisions that are unpopular, and especially if you're in a position of leadership. You just have to give up caring about that. I mean, it's always going to be there. The idea that you're going to get to a point where other people's opinions don't exist is false. 100% false. But the idea that you're going to get to a point where you no longer care about other people's opinions is 100% a possibility. I mean, it really is. And like, I think I've gotten there probably a little bit more over the last year or two. Probably definitely over the last year. I mean, anytime you ramp up what you're doing, and anytime you start going for things, and you know, I put some of it on social media, some of it I haven't. But like the stuff that I put on social media, it's always being judged. I know that, you know. But like, I'm not gonna let that stop me. I'm not gonna let it, you know, deter me from trying to accomplish what I want to accomplish. And like, you know, and if people are gonna think whatever the fuck they want to think anyways. So it's like you just have to do what's best for you. You just have to make the best decisions that you can make in any given moment, and let the chips fall where they may. And as long as you're sleeping good at night, and as long as you know what you're about, and as long as you know kind of your intentions are good, then you know that's all that really matters. And you know you can sleep well, you can rest easy at night, and you can feel good about what you're doing. And I've definitely noticed that like the less you give a shit about what other people think, the more like the less you stop trying to like keep whatever image it is. Like, and the less you care, the kind of the happier you are in a lot of ways. Like, if the less you care about what other people think, the more free you are to kind of pursue whatever you want to do. And I think that's something that I still work on it all the time. Like, I'm still working on that, but it's definitely something I'm better at now than I was a year ago, 2 years ago. Definitely something I'm better at now than I was 3 years ago, 4 years ago in college. I was not good at that shit. I was concerned with what everybody thought of me. I was concerned with, you know, how everybody was perceiving me, and I didn't want to come off as an asshole to anyone. And now I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna make moves, and I'm gonna do what I need to do, and I'm gonna do what I think is best for myself and my business and all of that. And if people think that I'm a jackass because of that, then that's fine. But I know the truth, and I know what is actually happening, and I know what I know what I'm doing. And so I'm like, all right, I trust myself to make good decisions in the moment, and I trust myself to have a balanced outlook on everything. And I think that that's important. And I, you know, I'm rambling like a motherfucker here, but I would just, it has been the best thing in my life to just give up the opinions of other people as something that influences my decisions. Like, you cannot use other people's opinions to make your own decisions. And if you do, that's a real good way to be unhappy. Real good way. It's a losing strategy, because you have to use you as a guide for your decision making. Can't use your parents, can't use your friends, you can't use whoever. You got to use you. You got to use what's in here and sort of what you want your life to look like, and all of that. And like, the more you can do that, I think the happier you're going to be. And I think that if more people did that, we as a society would be a happier, more well-balanced, more respecting group of folks, for sure. So that will wrap up Teachings of Titans. I went on a long rant there. I'm not sure how much of that actually made sense, but I'm excited to get it in. I'm excited to get it in editing and see what the fuck I said. Ooh. Water went in my nose. Yikes. All right. So now we're going to kind of keep talking about this sort of existential meta stuff on freestyling, which is, I've said this before, it is just my blank canvas to talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about. And in my notes here, I have the word ego written down. And I do just want to talk about ego, because ego is, it's such a double-edged sword. Ego is one of those things where, like, on one hand, you do have to have an ego if you want to accomplish anything. You have to have an ego about you. You have to be and I think a lot of ambitious people, a lot of people who are going for things, a lot of people who are, trying to make moves in their life have to have an ego. The problem is when the ego gets out of control and when the ego becomes so crazy and so like, you get this sort of distorted image of yourself and all that. Like, if an ego gets to that, and an ego gets to you mistreating other people, or not treating people like they're beneath you and all that, like that's not good. But the ego of what you want to accomplish in life, and a healthy ego is good. No, and some people can have healthy egos that are big. Some people can have healthy egos that are really small, but it's just about channeling it in the right ways, right? Like, some people have really big egos, but they don't do anything. And so then they take out their big ego on people who, the little people, which are like people who are, maybe beneath them. And that's where you get people who are in middle management who, decide to, just do crazy shit. And, and just people who, have vendettas, and in corporate America have vendettas and have, they want to make sure that, that they're fucking in charge and all that shit. And like, it just, people like that are probably pretty unhappy with the way their life is panned out, and that's their problem. But like, I think that like, it's interesting for me, right? Because I think a lot of people can look at me and look at all the things I do and look at, my Instagram and look at, this show and look at my YouTube, the vlogs I was doing for a while. They can look at all that stuff and go, this guy's got a hell of an ego on him. His ego is out of control. He thinks he's hot shit. He thinks he's that. He thinks he's this. I get that. I understand that. I've gotten that for a long time. Like, I've gotten that. People who don't know me, who want to think that or whatever. Again, it goes back to the whole not caring what people think. I don't give a fuck. I know what my ego is like. I know kind of, I do have an ego in the sense of like, I want to accomplish certain things in life. I want to be successful. I want to do this and I want to do that. Where I don't have an ego is I don't have an ego about saying, you know what, something more than me. You are. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt as much as I can. I try to help people as much as I can. I try to be, at work I'm in charge of people sometimes or whatever. So there's times where I'm in charge of people, and I try to not have an ego in those situations. I try to just help as much as I can and not act like I'm this hot shit, and not act like I'm just whatever. But I think it's easy for people to look at me and look at everything I do, and there are some things where I can look back at some things content wise that I've done and be like that was an ego move, or that was something that was controlled by the ego. But I've also tried to keep that stuff in check and try to check in with myself of like, is this a strategic move or is this an ego move? Is this something that is going to actually help push you forward, or is this something that's just going to kind of fuel your ego? And I try to do that with myself quite a bit. And I try to check in with, how I'm thinking about things. I think about how I'm thinking quite a bit. I think more than people probably think I do. But, yeah, I mean, I think that you just have to channel an ego in the right way. Like you can't channel it into, treating other people poorly. That's a really bad way to channel your ego. But if you want to channel it into starting a business and then once you start a business, treating people well in that business, and channel it into accomplishing things, channel it into setting goals, channel it into challenging yourself to do better, and challenging yourself to make strides and things like that. Those are all really healthy ways to challenge your ego. Those can also get out of control. Those can also can turn very unhealthy if you are just constantly going and nothing is ever good enough. Nothing is ever good enough. It's kind of this constant battle between striving and gratitude. And like, it's like, I'm striving for more, but I'm grateful for where I'm at. And I'm striving for more and I'm grateful for where I'm at. And, all this, kind of that back and forth. And, ego is one of those things that I think about quite a bit. Like, I'm like, and this is one of those things, like not caring about what other people think. I know that some people probably look at me and go, this guy's got a fucking ego. He's an egotistical son of a bitch. He doesn't, he's just focused on himself, and he's focused on, he just wants everybody to know that he's hot shit. I get that. I know that sentiment is out there, right? But I'm also not going to let that stop me from doing what I want to do. Like, it's just, that's not going to happen. And so I'm going to keep doing what I do. You keep doing what you do. You keep commentating, and we'll see where everything shakes out. And, yeah, so, that is going to wrap up another episode of 6 for 1. If you've made it this far, thank you so fucking much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. My name is P.A. Paul. You can follow me personally on social media at ApaulWorld. You can follow this show on social media at 6 for 1. You can follow this show at 6 for 1 show on Instagram, and I believe it's 6 for 1 on Twitter. Just like you see up on the screen, 6, number 4, 1. But yeah, and if you have any suggestions for the show, things you'd like us to talk about, things you want to see on the show, you can I'm going to post an email address in the description box below. Feel free to send that over to me. I would greatly appreciate it. I would greatly appreciate any feedback or whatever like that. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap things up here. Like I said, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I will talk to everybody in the next episode. So, later, everybody. Goodbye.